It's awesome. I want to say a dream come true. It was not really on my radar maybe last year, but life happens in funny ways. And as it became more and more apparent that there was going to be a shift happening, it got more exciting for me. And I took a pretty good hard look at like what my career goals are going to be. And I've been working on campus for the last 2 years. I've stayed working on campus throughout my whole time up here. But I found that sports are really my calling. And, I'm sure my coworkers were probably sick of hearing the Olympics in the background in the corner of my screen and, all that stuff. So I just can't stay away from sports. And I'm really happy to be in more of a pivotal role this time. I think the time away was really good for me. I learned more than I ever thought I ever needed to know about academic administration. But I think it's going to be very helpful to know how a university runs. It's going to help me with recruiting. It's going to help me with better relationships with professors on campus, maybe a bit more buy-in from the campus community in general. I've made a ton of colleagues that are really valuable. And met a lot of grad students and non-athletes as well, students. So I think it's all going to be very beneficial. But yeah, back to the volleyball piece, I'm super excited to dive in with this team. I recruited almost all of them. There's really only like one class that I didn't have a hand in, because you recruit 2-ish years prior to them actually arriving on campus. So really just the freshman class currently is the only one that I don't know at all. But even the transfers, I recruited them out of high school. They went on to their first school, but it was awesome to see them come back. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. One thing that my parents always taught me was to make sure that you're somebody that people want to be around. The wins and losses are going to come and go. And it's not all about that by any means. But, if you show up every day with a good attitude or as best of an attitude as you can given the day, and are just generally like a good person to work with and a good person to be around, then good things will happen. And I've kind of always been able to just kind of take the best opportunity available to me at the time. And I think a lot of that is because I've been open to learning, and open to meeting people and just absorbing everything I can in whatever situation I've been in. I try to, not burn bridges or anything like that. And that certainly wasn't this way with my departure a couple years ago. But I think it's just been a growth mindset and just being open to opportunities and open to learning all sorts of stuff. And I'm really thankful that Suzanne and Matt both have the confidence in me to come back and do this. I really did truly enjoy my time the first stint with the team, but some family situations and whatnot came up. I needed to be home with my young son and not on the road as much, and it was super valuable to have that time to allow him to grow up a little bit more. Now he's a bit more independent, but it was a good break. But yeah, like I said, I belong in the sports realm, I think. A little bit of both. Yeah. Just living around here, and I've been watching the matches online on the streaming and whatnot. I'd come to a few games here and there, but I wanted to give Mallory, I'm super excited to work with Mallory, but I wanted to give her the distance to be able to flourish and learn. And I didn't want it to seem like I was, still lingering or anything like that. But of course, I've still been interested. And some of the girls have been actually my assistant coaches for club. So I have a little bit of an in there. But yeah, it's been really, it felt like I never left, but at the same time, things feel different in a good way. And it's always great to come back in the building with so many friendly faces. I mean, my husband worked here for a number of years with the hockey team, so I'm friends with a lot of people around here. So I've made a lot of new friends and new colleagues down on campus, which is going to be helpful, like I said, but coming back up here feels more like home to me. I'm a very technical coach, and I'm big into procedures, manuals, stuff like that. So we're literally going to have the opportunity to define our system and put it on paper. We met with the team a little bit yesterday, and I'm excited, and I think the girls are excited too, to have kind of the first say in defining our systems and what it means when we say, we're blocking a certain way or we're playing a certain type of defense, literally write the script and be this is our system, this is how we do things, these are all of our set calls, these are all of our plays, and just put it to paper so that when an incoming freshman comes in, they can go into the Google Drive or whatever and be all right, that's how we play. Because to the naked eye, volleyball kind of looks all the same, but just like any sport, when you start watching it more and more, you see certain teams have tendencies to run a little faster offense. Certain teams like to be more creative, whatever it is. So I want to dive into the needs of the team in terms of like our physical capabilities and tailor it around that, of course. But I also want to tap into some of the more traditional systems that we've run and really put it down in a manual, so to speak, so that it's really obvious like what we do, who we are, and we can translate it easily. Yeah, I think the phrase that comes to mind is the reduce the ambiguity, and back to defining the systems, like, okay, here's the situation. How do we play defense in this certain situation? Who has what ball? It's one thing to just tell a team, go for the ball, but it's another to say who gets that ball in this situation, or how do we make a shift if the set is wide or if the set is inside, whatever it is. So really breaking down all of the defensive options and making it very clear. There's always going to be people that run into each other. There's always going to be once in a blue moon, you go, I go, oops. It just happens. But try to reduce the ambiguity and all that and really clearly define whose ball is which. But that also goes into playing to our strengths. It's going to take me this spring, I think, to realize like what the range is specifically in defense. Like I've seen Amelia play, haven't actually been in the gym with her. Amelia's been the libero for the last couple of years, but what actually is her range? Should we be giving her a little bit more cross? Should we take away a little bit more cross and kind of, isolate her? As an example, we're going to have to find all that out. And I'm excited to get in the gym with them and test their limits a little bit. And see what we're capable of doing so that we can tailor a good defense around it. Yeah, Paige was really impressive this year, particularly as a freshman. That's a really hard thing to do, especially in the middle position, which is grueling and brutal and sometimes not very forgiving. But it was awesome to see Paige really shine there. So I'm excited to have the middle core be very strong. Our middles had been strong, especially during those NCAA runs. Our middles got better and better and better through the recruiting classes, and it's been awesome to see them continue to stay strong. And I know that Casey, being a huge asset sticking around another year, has, I'm sure, certainly helped Trisha and Paige and the rest of the middle crew have some direction and like what to see, how to act, the poise, all of that stuff. So the middles are something that middles are my favorite group to train. But middles are something that I really value in terms, they may not get the ball very often. They may not get too many touches, but you definitely know if your team doesn't have a good middle. They are so crucial in everything you do that it's exciting that we do have a very strong group of middles returning. I never thought I would be a coach. Like, I was a very fiery player, very competitive, like always chasing the wins. So I just never really thought I would be in a coaching role. But I was always observing the coaches, of course. And I always had generally great relationships with my coaches. But I think Keith Barnett at UCCS, he was a former national team player, just an incredible setter. He's currently working for League One Volleyball right now as a recruiter, which is a cool job. But he really helped me ground myself and center myself in the latter part of my college career. And I'm so glad that he took a chance on me because I was in not the transfer portal, but in the transfer realm at the time. But he is an incredible volleyball mind, and he taught me so much about running an offense and decision making and all of the things that go into it. But he was also competitive but level-headed, and we certainly got into it once or twice, both of us being competitive. But I learned so much from him, but I don't think I realized how much I learned until I started coaching. And I started saying, without even thinking of, I started saying some of his like quips and whatnot, and I was like, oh, that's totally a Keithism. But, it's you hear coaches over the years say stuff to you, at you, but you don't really realize what you've learned until you start regurgitating it back. Keith has been certainly a mentor for me. Maybe he didn't know it at the time, but that, and then just, I don't know, there's so many. I do listen to a lot of like podcasts and whatnot, and I think volleyball specific podcasts and coaching are starting to take off with League One Volleyball and whatnot. And there's a lot of really good insight from lifer coaches. I was just listening to one this morning, a lady who was at Emory University, D3. They won like a bunch of national championships, and she was talking this morning about resiliency and also like cultivating a culture of trust and, you know, all the things that you want to do as a coach. But it's awesome to hear someone who's technically like an old school coach who was doing those things that may have been innovative at the time. Yeah, so I've been learning a lot through podcasts, and that's just general interest before this job even came up, because I was coaching club too. Competitiveness. He really bred a culture of competitiveness in the gym. Lots of playing, going at it in different ways, and trying to get the girls to just be competitive with one another in a healthy way, of course. But yeah, he did a really good job of being energetic, being, you know, just creating situations where the girls could get outside of their comfort zone. And, you know, it's so hard as a female athlete sometimes. You feel like you don't necessarily want to like offend anybody, or it's just kind of like innate in our nature at times. But he did a really good job of pushing them a little bit, and they may have resisted at times, but like afterwards they, you know, maybe have an explosion or something, and then you're cool. I think of specifically a time, it was Macaulay Peterson and Laura went at it one practice. I think it was Laura's freshman year or something like that. And Laura set her inside or something like that. And Macaulay was expecting it like a little bit further. And Macaulay was all heated. And I don't remember really what happened, but the two of them, fiery personalities, they just like started like bickering. And then Matt was like, take a lap, both of you, like just go walk it off, figure it out. And then they were like totally great the rest of their time together. So I like situations like that. It's like, go for it, be competitive, figure it out, bicker a little bit if you need to, but in the end, we're all trying to get to the same place. We may just not agree on the way that we get there initially, but let's hash it out. We're cool. But yeah, I think the competitiveness is something that Matt really instilled in this group. And I mean, it's apparent based on the trajectory of the program. I mean, impossible situation to come into a team with 0 wins the season before. So you have to breed a culture of healthy competitiveness to even get them to believe that they can compete with people. And then you start knocking teams off, and then you get a little bit more belief and a little bit more. And then we got to the top of the league. And then the new challenge was, how do we stay competitive with ourselves with this huge target on our back? When we were technically, we had this underdog mentality forever, but then all of a sudden we're winning the conference and we're like, hold on. How do we shift here? We're not the underdogs anymore. So yeah, a lot of that navigation in a short period of time. Matt was great about, and we had a lot of talks how to navigate those challenges of, going from middle of the pack to the top of the pack. How's the messaging? How do we handle all of this? Yeah, she's going to stick around this season, and then we'll go from there. I want her to be able to explore opportunities as much as she wants, or stick around as much as she wants. It's totally her career path. But yeah, we had coffee last week, and it was an awesome conversation. She's just starting out in her coaching career, but she's very energetic. She's very in tune with the girls, and I think it's going to be very helpful for me to have someone who can kind of bridge that generational gap a little bit. I'm older than I think I am, but I'm like, help me with some vocabulary. But yeah, she's has a great relationship already with the girls, and she seems like she gets it. So it'll be nice to have her as a buffer with communication, of course, but specifically with volleyball. She was a libero, she was a setter, so she's going to help me with the implementing some of the ball control technical pieces. And the training that she had in club, she played for a really good club, and her mom is a coach, her sister's a coach, all sorts of things. So I think we're on the same page about a lot of things, and I think we're both excited to get in the gym together, and we're just going to act natural and hope for the best.